Let's take a look at the global market highlights and news for March 6, 2014. Another Bitcoin theft, Flexcoin closes down. China releases updated economic outlook. Russia and the US in discussion over Ukraine. Let's take a quick look at what is happening in the global markets now. Europe's equity markets fell on fresh concerns over Chinese growth. London's FTSE 100 index dropped 0.71% to close at 6775.42 points, with the heavyweight mining sector knocked by unease over China. Frankfurt's DAX 30 slid 0.49% to 9542.02 points, and in Paris the CAC 40 dipped 0.11% compared with Tuesday's closing values to 4391.25. China's leaders promised policies that would inject more risk into a financial system grown used for bailouts and other government support as Beijing sought to push ahead an overhaul agenda without hurting the economy. The proposals were included in an annual work report by Premier Li Keqiang to the country's rubber stamp legislator. Mr. Li set China's growth target at about 7.5%, the same as last year. That suggests the leadership is worried at least as much about keeping growth from slowing and deepening unemployment as it is in pushing difficult and controversial changes that might bolster the country's long-term prospects. Last year, China's GDP grew at 7.7%. U.S. stocks were mostly lower after a report showed only modest private sector jobs growth in February. The ADP report was the latest piece of U.S. economic data to show weakness, but some of the blame is being put on harsh winter storms that have repeatedly battered much of the country, depressing economic activity. U.S. businesses added just 139,000 jobs in February, well below the average of 186,000 over the last year and below the 150 expected by analysts. In company news, a report by the Australian Financial Review said that Apple has diverted about $9 billion in pre-tax profits from its local operations to Ireland over the past decade in a bid to reduce its Australian tax bill. The news comes as governments around the world step up their endeavors to recoup tax from tech heavyweights like Google and Apple, which could see measures put in place at the next G20 meetings in Brisbane later this year. It's more bad news for Bitcoin as another Bitcoin exchange goes dark. Bitcoin bank Flexcoin is closing down after it's lost Bitcoins worth about $600,000 to a hacker attack. Flexcoin said in a message posted on its website that all 896 Bitcoin stores online were stolen on Sunday. As Flexcoin does not have the resources, assets, or otherwise to come back from this loss, we are closing our doors immediately, the company said. In the foreign exchange market, the dollar bought 102.36 yen, the euro fetched 1.3731, and 140.61 yen. China's National People's Congress began its annual meeting Wednesday with Premier Li Keqiang saying the government was targeting 7.5% growth in 2014, unchanged from last year's forecast. The figure is below the 7.7% growth seen in 2013 and 2012, which was the worst rate since 1999. The around 7.5% goal came after soft recent economic data, with a key manufacturing index slipping to an 8-month low in February. The pound was stellar performer today, climbing to trade well above 1.67 after services PMI beat expectations. Today's big events will be the ECB and the Bank of England meetings. Moving to the commodities market, gold settled mostly higher on Wednesday after soft private sector jobs data from the U.S. showed employment rising less than expected in February amid renewed saber rattling between Moscow and the West. Gold gained $2.40 or 0.2% to close at $1334.30. U.S. crude oil stocks rose 1.4 million barrels the week ended February 28th as refiners cut run rates and imports pushed higher. Data from the U.S. Energy Information Administration showed Wednesday. WTI oil traded at 102.68 a barrel, down 67 cents. This is Amy Anderson from Option Rally signing off. Follow me on Facebook, and of course, I'm waiting for your like below if you enjoyed today's Market Watch.